Parks and Recreation Commission. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Forcell, would you lead us?
Yes, ma'am. Ready? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Rapp, any changes to the agenda?
There are none,
Okay.
Chair.
Roll call.
Chair Connor,
Present.
Forcell,
Present.
Longstreet,
Here.
Larimore Hall,
Here.
Gonzalez is absent.
Okay. Any written communications? No. Okay. No. I have this. Okay, public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 1 minute on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. We have one speaker, Mr. Locke. Is that right hand? I keep forgetting.
I just wanted to let you know that in relation to tennis, I'm currently developing an ambidextrous relationship with tennis with my left arm now. And when it comes to skill, ultimately a tennis tournament is actually the means for a person to actually gauge their skill and their increase in skill. I'm taking tennis to a place where it hasn't been. And in relation to ambidextrous, I'm going to have a relationship. I'm hoping to be an A player in relation to both arms, and then with that skill level, I'm going to be bringing and showing the whole basis of a holistic relationship, and also how it ties in with like yoga and Pilates in relation to building again skill and also muscle and that whole relationship. I'm hoping to get the school board to actually introduce this. So to the children right now, the education they receive, and I'm sorry to say, is historic kind of thing. And I'll keep you up to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Committee Assignment Reports. Longstreet.
Well, this month I attended with Commissioner Forcell, the Front Country Trails, the Creeks Advisory Committee, and the Douglas Family Preserve. At the DFP, which meets quarterly, there was discussion about signage up there, and that is moving forward, and some restoration work. And also there will be the Scape Land Art Show will be held, I believe it's July 28th and 29th, and that is a fundraiser, and the proceeds will be going to the DFP. So I encourage everybody to attend that.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner
We had
Forcell.
the Front Country Trails Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force meeting, as we do every first Wednesday of the month. And it's centered on presentations from user groups, and there's actually a lot of public comment at this meeting. And as we report every month, it is progressing along, and we hope to have some resolution by the end of the year.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Commission and staff communications.
Chair Connor and Commissioners, I do have a few items that I wanted to touch base with you on briefly. As part of the city's budget process, as you will remember from your last meeting, we followed that up with a meeting with the Finance Committee and then a presentation to City Council with the Finance Committee recommendations. The Finance Committee recommended to the City Council, and the City Council approved to be included in the budget almost $175,000 worth of new funding to expand youth programs geared to reach elementary and high school youth, and also a youth employment program. Additionally, they approved our recommendation to
make changes to the resident discount policy, and they provided funding for a half-time grounds maintenance worker. We proposed to them that if they would do that, then we would take from our hourly budget the rest of the funding needed to make that a full-time position, because we far benefit more from having somebody who's working year-round. So that budget will be adopted on June 26th, 27th. I'm working with too many dates. The end of June, the last council meeting in June. So we're very appreciative of the additional funding that the Parks and Recreation Department got, and thank you for your role in, and I will also tell you, because we all got compliments from mayor and council and other community people for the process that we went through to involve the community, the stakeholders, the youth in developing those recommendations, so I wanted you to know that that was noted several times during different presentations.
Thank you for staff's part in that as well.
Let me say that I was pleasantly astonished when I got your email indicating that they were all approved after the last month's battle, where we were going through trying to decipher which ones had priority and everything. So very good job, and staff, you really do carry some serious influence over there, or here actually, with the council to get all of that included, and it is a big coup.
A couple of additional points just to keep you up to date. We have submitted a grant application for the mobile recreation program, so that is still moving forward. And also, staff worked with a community collaborative to submit a $1.1 million grant through the Workforce Investment Board for a youth employment program that could serve potentially as many as 150 to 175 youth, both in school and out of school. So we should hear the outcome of that fairly soon. So and we will want to, our partners that are part of that, will be working very closely with them to get that up and going. Would include the SARE, which is a program that operates in 14 different counties around the state. They're going to be the lead agency. They run this program through this funding in those 14 different settings. They have a very good reputation. They stepped forward and offered to be the lead agency, and then the partners would be the Santa Barbara Housing Authority, Santa Barbara School District, Santa Barbara City College, and we had serious discussions with the Casa de la Raza, so I'm hoping that they're going to be a part of this as well. So support from the Chamber of Commerce. People are very interested in being a part of this and helping to provide both jobs and training resources. So it looks to be a very, very good program. A couple of other things. As Commissioner Longstreet mentioned, we are working very closely with the SCAPE Art Group, which is Southern California Artists Painting for the Environment. And they do 2 major art shows a year. And one of these art shows, the one in July, will be a benefit where the proceeds will be split. 40% of the proceeds will go to the Friends of the DFP to help fund restoration projects and other park improvement projects. The Park Foundation, the City Parks and Recreation, and the SCAPE Group are all coming together and hosting a preview reception that we'll have on Friday night that will be in the Faulkner Gallery. Invitations are being printed as we speak. This will be a ticketed event, and it will be a fundraiser for the Douglas Family Preserve Maintenance Fund. So we're very excited about this opportunity, 2 fundraisers in one weekend to support the Douglas Family Preserve and to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the community's effort to purchase this property as a city park. And I also wanted to make an announcement to you that we received from Community Development. In the last week, they've had 2 successful community workshops for the Plan Santa Barbara effort, and they want to encourage your participation and the participation of people who are listening at home to attend one of the next opportunities, Thursday, June 28th, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the West Side Community Center, and Saturday, July 7th, 9 a.m. to noon at Hope School. And additionally, we are working with community development to set up some special meetings where this information will be discussed, an opportunity for feedback to the Plan Santa Barbara group, which will include the commission, and we'll invite all of our advisory committees, and we'll invite interested people that would love to come, with the focus really being on park and recreation needs for the community. Also, the Plan Santa Barbara is going to have a separate meeting with the 3 community center advisory committees, so that that focus is really on neighborhood concerns in those 3 areas. And they also will be making a separate presentation providing input to the Creeks Advisory Committee. So with that, that's my conclusion of the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Rapp. I'd like to remind anyone in the audience that would like to speak to any of our agenda items to please fill out a speaker slip. Youth Council update? New intern, perhaps?
Actually, we have an application going to City Council within the next few weeks for an appointment for a new youth intern. So you should have somebody for your September meeting.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Summary of council actions. Any highlights, Ms. Rapp?
No, Chair Connor, thank you.
Thank you. Approval of minutes?
Can we do those separately, Madam Chair?
Yes. Special meeting of May 21st, 2007.
Move for waiving the reading and approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Regular meeting of May 23rd, 2007.
Yeah, I have a change on that. The call to order says by Chair Connor. I believe Chair Connor was not present.
No, Chair
believe
Connor
that
was not
Chair
present.
Forcell called that meeting to order.
Okay.
Just so the minutes are correct, Carla.
Yes, also, I found a spelling error with Samarkand on page 3.
Boy, it's going downhill now.
Okay? Samarkand.
Samarkand.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, I'd move for approval of, with the changes to the minutes of the Wednesday, May 23rd, 2007 regular meeting.
Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain. Okay, passes. Volunteer recognition. Would we, Ms. Rapp?
Chair Forcell, Parks Manager Santos Escobar will make this presentation. And I would note that Mr. Escobar has had many years in working with the Pony organization, and as both someone in the organization and also working with our collaboration with Pony and the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Escobar?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Connor and Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Mr. Fred Cook. Mr. Fred Cook has been involved with Pony League Baseball for the past 8 years as a coach, not only for Mustang League but also the Bronco League at McKenzie Park. He's devoted many hundreds of hours, not only coaching our kids at the park, but behind the scenes, he's also our field director. He's been doing this for the past 6 years. This is a very important part of Pony League. Without him, it would be very difficult to replace him. And part of the job that he does at the particular Mustang and
Bronco League fields is he helps set up the field. He goes through and trains the volunteers, trains the coaches with the setup and breakdown of the fields. That includes setting up the home run fences that are installed at the park, folks learning how to drag the field and water the field properly, going through and setting up the bases as well, and going through and teaching parents and coaches how to go through and chalk the fields and get the fields set up. And at this time, I'd like to present Mr. Fred Cook as this month's Volunteer of the Year. Or the month, excuse me.
Thank you, Santos.
Mr. Cook, in recognition of all your hard work, the Parks and Recreation Department, on this day of 27th of June, 2007, for all your hard work and commitment to the Pony League Youth Baseball Program in Santa Barbara, we thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just a brief word. I really appreciate the Parks and Recreation's cooperation with our league and doing everything that they do. It's been a good marriage, and hopefully we'll continue it for many, many more years. So it's a pleasure to go to that park every summer, or spring and summer, and the little bit of work that I do there doesn't overshadow anything that you guys are doing, which is keeping it. I have more comments from parents saying, what a wonderful venue for playing baseball, and I just really appreciate everything that Parks and Recreation does to keep that park looking great. So, pat yourselves on the back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to say to Mr. Cook and to his organization that City Parks and Recreation is very appreciative of all that Pony Baseball does for the youth in our community, for promoting the sport of baseball, and they do a very good job. We appreciate that.
Yes, they do. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, new staff introductions. Ms. Rapp?
Chair Connor.
Yes.
Yeah, you only had one today so far. That's not bad.
It is my pleasure tonight, because we are so close to being fully staffed, but we have filled in the last few weeks critical positions for our department that allow us to really move forward. And so staff will be doing some introductions. Jill Zachary will be introducing Cameron Benson, our new Creeks manager. Santos Escobar will be introducing Tim Downey, our new urban forest superintendent, and Sarah Hanna will be introducing Kimmy Cole, our new recreation specialist with the youth activities program. Ms. Zachary?
Chair Connor and members of the commission, it's a little unique to be standing here, but I thought, hey, we started a trend. As you know, we've been recruiting for a new Creeks manager for a number of months, and it was a fairly lengthy process, and we had a number of competitive applicants, and I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Cameron Benson to you tonight, who will begin his position on July 9th as the new Creeks manager for the Creeks Division. And I'd just like to say a few things. First of all, I want to acknowledge that Mr. Benson served on the Creeks Advisory Committee. So he spent 2 years working with staff and interacting with commission members and other liaisons to the advisory committee. So he brings that experience to the division. And recently, if you recall, we recently embarked on a cooperative project with the Environmental Defense Center, and Mr. Benson is leaving his position as the executive director there. However, prior to his taking on the new position, we developed a cooperative project to look at bringing back Steelhead for Mission Creek, and we're able to marry both public and private nonprofit foundation funds to move forward with assessing the feasibility of that project. And it's really exciting because I think it demonstrates how to address riparian habitat, water quality, species issues is really a public-private partnership, and we're hoping that that's a success. And we were able to begin a working relationship on that project as well. Mr. Benson also brings a lot of management and policy experience. As you know, the Creeks Division is over 6 years old. We started from the beginning. We've achieved a number of our objectives, and we have a number of challenges ahead of us. And we're very confident that Mr. Benson will play a really instrumental role in our future successes. And overall, we're really happy to have him join the Parks and Recreation Department. He'll round out an excellent staff team. And so I'd like to welcome Cameron Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and thank you, Ms. Zachary, for that very kind introduction and for doing such a wonderful job building the foundation for the Creeks program. I don't know what to add to that introduction. I've been a Santa Barbara resident for a long time now, almost 25 years. My professional career and background is in environmental law and policy. And I am, as Ms. Zachary mentioned, I'm starting on July 9th. I'm looking forward to working with all of you and with the Creeks Division staff and the community to restore creeks and improve our water quality.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Well, your reputation precedes you. I've seen you on TV a couple times and read about you in virtually every newspaper locally, so I'm glad to see you're a real person and you're actually here, and that you're going to take some of the load off of Jill, because otherwise we were going to have her cloned. It was getting really touchy. So we're really happy to have you aboard, and I have read a lot about you in the newspapers, and I think you're going to be an excellent person to fill this position.
Thank you. I look forward to getting started.
Great. Thank you.
I hope you get a vacation before you start.
Mr. Escobar?
Chair Conner, Commissioners, at this time I'd like to introduce to you our new Urban Forest Superintendent / Arborist, Mr. Tim Downey. Mr. Tim Downey brings approximately 25 years of experience as an arborist. He has worked in the city of Ventura for over 23 years. He also worked a year and a half at the city of San Clarita. He brings with him many years of experience as an arborist. He also will bring to the plate a lot of experience regarding tree inventories. And as we spoke in the past, we will be embarking on our tree inventory for our entire city of Santa Barbara and also within a few of our parks. And with this experience, it's going to be great to have him on board. We've also not had a arborist for 1 year, and this is going to relieve Mr. Randy Fritz some time to chill out a little bit, and myself, so it's going to be a good thing. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tim Downey.
Hello, and thanks for this opportunity. I don't really have anything to add, but if you have any questions.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
We'll have plenty of questions for you when you get going on those trees.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
One additional comment on the Urban Forest Superintendent, because this will be a vernacular change. The position title is no longer City Arborist. The position title is Urban Forest Superintendent. However, Mr. Downey, in that position, will serve as City Arborist because city ordinances refer to the City Arborist making certain decisions. But for all intents and purposes, when elsewhere referred to, it will be as the Urban Forest Superintendent, which we feel is more reflective of the role of that position, because their role is to manage our urban forest. So, and Ms. Hanna? Chair Connor and Commissioners, I'd like to introduce Kimmy Coley. Come on up here, Kimmy. She's the new Recreation Specialist in Youth Activities. Kimmy comes to us as a graduate from the University of Tennessee with a degree in Recreation and Leisure, but it had an emphasis in therapeutic recreation. She's worked for our adapted program since 2005, running the Blaze Sports Program, which is a national disabled program for sports for adults. And also on many of the special events that Adapted puts on, disability awareness clinics and those sorts of things. We love Kimmy because she's brought to us this very enthusiastic, positive attitude. She's always smiling. Smile on cue. And Kimmy has really hit the ground running. She's helped us open up full-time the 3 drop-in recreation centers that we expanded to full-time starting right now. They opened this week. So she's been with us for about a week and a half. So she's learning very quickly what's going to be going on this summer. And we'll also be supporting our after-school programs in the fall. So Kimmy, would you like to say something?
Nice to meet y'all. Thank you for having me. And so things have been going great for summer drop-ins so far. Like Sarah said, my first day was Monday, working for these programs specifically, but today as day 3, we are currently keeping safe environments for 58 children at Harding, 88 children at Franklin, and 91 at McKinley. So thank you for the additional support to youth activities.
And if you need an interpreter in the future, I've learned to speak, the Tennessee accent. It's a while though, but she's a great gal. So
thank you.
Thanks, Kimmy.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you. Item number 5, street tree advisory recommendations. I can see we have 2 items, and they're both denials, 1 street tree and 1 setback trees. 519 San Onofre Road has any comments? Would someone entertain a motion?
Since we've done this for 2 months.
Okay. Randy, would you like to speak to this item?
Chair Connor, certainly I can give you a bit of background that I outlined in the memorandum from June 27th, just giving you some insight into what I found in the garage area, which Mr. Morris had basically presented information to us in the previous commission saying that this was cracks in his garage or his foundation that he felt were due to the tree. And like I said, that was new information that the street tree committee wasn't available during their initial looking or investigation of the tree. So what I found was that the cracks were of a size and also a distance from the tree that the tree really couldn't have been the cause of it. And I think there was some speculation that it might have been subsidence or due to the subsoil there. And I think that's probably the case. So in speaking with Mr. Morris, we decided that we would prune the trees, all of the trees on that street, because they're in need of it, and come back in the fall after we've pruned the tree and do some remedial root pruning along the entrance to his driveway, just to make sure that there's no more raising of that apron.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments?
I would just like to thank staff for being very thorough on this and the Street Tree Advisory Committee, and I would move that we deny the removal at 519 San Onofre.
Any second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. B, setback tree, 3710 State Street. Any questions or comments?
Nope.
Would someone like to entertain a motion?
I move that we approve staff recommendations for the 3710 State Street proposal.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 6. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're done with, yeah. I just wanted to thank you, Randy, for stepping in and for doing really good work. I'm the liaison, the commission liaison to the Street Tree Advisory Committee, and you've always been very helpful in catching me up and trying to get me up to speed and learning a lot of really technical things. And I just wanted to say that I'm very, very appreciative of it.
Yes, let me echo that since this is your last time.
It's your swan song.
Yes.
And it's very fitting and very Santa Barbara that they were denials.
Good job, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sentiments.
Okay. Item number 6, implementation of video streaming of Parks and Rec Commission and Creeks Advisory Committee meetings. Recommendation, Ms. McGill?
It's an item strictly for information.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm overstepped. I apologize. Go ahead.
Read it.
The recommendation is that the commission receive a presentation, that the commission hear a presentation on the implementation of streaming video for Park and Recreation Commission and Creeks Advisory Committee meetings.
My turn.
Ms. Rapp.
Chair Connor and Commissioners, we mentioned this to you as a possibility a couple of months ago. We're very pleased tonight that you'll be receiving a report on this new process which is being implemented effective this evening. We are the first department, other than City Council, first commission to roll out this process. To do the presentation tonight is Tom Doolittle, who heads our Information Services Division within the city.
Good afternoon, Chair Connor and other members of the Commission. I'm Tom Doolittle, Information Systems Manager, and to my left is Scott Nelson, our city's webmaster. We have a cast of several other people, unusual, besides Ms. McGill and Smith. We have Jay Killian, who's a trainer for Granicus, and Marianne Knight, who is the city's training coordinator. A very brief presentation and an optional demonstration if you desire. Basically the what, why, and how of video streaming. Video streaming, which is live with this meeting, will allow people on any internet-connected device to watch this meeting live and also to watch any meetings that have been already recorded on an on-demand basis after the meeting has been completed. Why do we want to do that? We want to expand the viewer audience. Right now, if someone wants to watch these proceedings, they either have to come to this meeting or they have to watch the schedule of its rebroadcast on City TV Channel 18, and this will give them the ability to watch those meetings without having to travel, and a huge expansion of viewers. It's easier viewing. You can do it from your computer, and also you can look at any specific item instead of having to watch the entire broadcast from start to finish if you had an item later in the broadcast. How are we doing it? Streaming video technology that I'm sure all of us have seen on the internet, and we're using a contracted service with Granicus. Granicus is training us today and also training the city's computer training coordinator, who will then move forward with all the rest of the filmed boards and commissions. A real quick description of the benefits, which I've pretty much talked about. You can watch at home, live, and you can watch any part of any meeting afterwards. You don't have to wait till it's on cable TV. You can watch it from any place in the world. Right now, City TV is only broadcast to the Santa Barbara area, so people that live in Carpinteria, Ventura, and the San Ynez Valley did not have that ability, and now they do. You can also watch and read the staff reports simultaneously. And a real brief description of what we have done. We started off exactly a year ago with city council meetings. July 9th, I think, was the first city council meeting. That has been going extremely well. I hope all of you have had the opportunity to peruse those meetings. We've also done, we've archived the city TV, both their live broadcasts and their archives, including the award-winning show Inside Santa Barbara, and I should have also put in Garden-Wise Guys is also available, streaming now. We're also working with the fire department doing remote training that is in progress right now, so that training can go out to the fire stations and staff can stay at the fire station, decreasing their response time. We're now into phase 2, which is expanding to all the filmed boards and commissions. Creeks and Parks and Recreation are the first to go. This meeting is live, which you'll be able to see, as well as the July 18th Creeks meeting. We are pursuing other areas, the computer training sessions, so that staff can view training at their workstation. And this has a special adaptation for safety and potential other technical training for Parks and Recreation staff. And then, of course, risk management and other safety training. So that, in a very quick nutshell, is what we're doing. If you would like us to, we can give you a 5-second or a 1-minute demonstration of this, or
Yeah.
we can answer any questions.
Well, let's see a demo.
Okay.
I want to find out how, because my dear sainted mother wants to watch me on television. So if she can't do that, she'd like to watch on her computer.
Scott is going to bring up the city's website, and we will show you very quickly two things. We'll show you what the Parks and Recreation Commission webpage is going to look like. This is live. And then we will go and show you just a brief clip of a previous city council.
Now that I'm familiar with. That I know already.
That's my homepage.
Yeah. We might just want to go to the website. External. Yes. Technical malfunction.
I'm glad that happens to you, too.
Yes. And the anguish of not checking this ahead of time. On the city's website, we have a news brief. Says Parks and Recreation Commission meetings are now online. Staff will be able to go to the agendas section, and they will see this that shows the current agenda. The June 27th agenda is posted, and once that agenda has been turned into a video clip, which we'll show you in the city council meetings, they will see an entirely different page that shows the agenda, the minutes, and the video clip. Staff reports are also there as well. So this is what the city website will look like to external visitors. Now let's go to the city council, a quick demo of the past. And so since city council meetings are already online, we have a good archive history of those, and that's what we'll show you right now. Well, embarrassment.
Sorry I asked.
Yes.
I apologize.
I actually use this, and it's really very useful. You can leave it on and work on your computer and do things, and sometimes there's relevant stuff to your job while you're at work that you can listen to.
You mean you do this at your day job?
Mm-hmm. I was listening to Historic Landmarks today because they were discussing lighting, which pertains to my work.
Oh, my goodness.
We've got a configuration setting that was not working, so my recommendation is try it when you get home, and you'll see yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Item number 7, Aquatic Section Program Report. Ms. Rath?
Aquatic Supervisor Rich Hanna will present this report.
Chair Connor,
Chair Khanna, members of the commission, bear with me. I'm not the tech guy, so let me make sure my presentation.
Oh, you'll probably be lucky with it.
Good evening again. It is my pleasure to be here tonight to highlight 3 aquatic programs as we head into summer, each of which have had successes which I felt that were important to come here tonight and explain and share with not only the commission but our viewing audience as well. The first program that I'm going to cover is our Beach Lifeguard Service, which is primarily there to prevent incidents, accidents, and respond to emergencies over 4.2 miles of city beaches. It is a seasonal lifeguard service that operates from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend, and our typical daily operations are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The beach statistics that we submitted last year show that we had an attendance of over 200,000 participants at our city beaches, and that would be counted for during times when we were in service. We have a limited amount of rescues, but I think what the staff take a lot of pride in is the preventative actions that we perform, and they are ultimately defined as going out into the water, checking on a swimmer that may not have a great swimming stroke, going over to creek outfalls or areas where we know there's dangers or surf coming in at Ledbetter, and basically encouraging kids to move to a safer area or adults. And then another thing that I think we take a lot of pride in is we did find we found 3 lost children and we found 1 lost adult. And we provided 840 students with public education seminars at our beaches last summer. Just a quick overview of where our lifeguard tower locations are and where we patrol from. We run the area from Shoreline Park, really at the point there, all the way down to just below the cemetery by the Clark Estate. We have 2 towers at Ledbetter Beach and 3 towers spread across East Beach, and then we have 1 rescue unit that's staffed with 2 EMTs that provide backup and emergency response on our city beaches and coordinate with the EMS system here in town should there be an emergency. One of the great highlights that I'm here to share with you tonight is for the last at least 20 years, we've had these sand-colored lifeguard towers that truly epitomize, they look good from afar, but they're far from good. They were sand-colored, so we had a hard time actually locating them on the beach, even for patrons. And one of the top safety tips that we try to encourage people that are coming to our beaches is to swim near a lifeguard tower. And when you were at East Beach looking west, you really couldn't even make out a tower that was about 400 yards away. Some of the other things that we had problems with, we had ongoing maintenance with the towers, and you can see to the right there that we had a lot of rotting wood, rooftops were basically delaminating, and we were spending significant amount of funds to basically put these towers out each and every year. So going into this year, we decided to look at replacing those towers. So the scope of the project was to replace the 5 wood lifeguard towers with 5 fiberglass lifeguard towers. The wood towers that we had previously had a 5 to 10 year life expectancy, and it was about a $6,500 building cost to put them out, and we had an annual maintenance cost of $1,500 to $2,500. That was for all 5 towers, but it was predominantly to the wood structures that you see on the top. Going with a fiberglass tower, the life expectancy that we have been promised is 30 years. The new replacement lifeguard towers, there's a couple of great features with these new towers. First of all, they're California blue, so they actually stand out. It gives us some uniformity to what people expect when they come to a beach, and because they stand out and they can there is uniformity there, we are meeting our mission of having people go to a lifeguard tower, check in with a lifeguard, and swim near a lifeguard stand. Some of the other bonuses that we got out of this purchase, or these purchases, is also obviously the 30 years. We have ladders that go up and down, so we don't have lifeguards having to jump up and down from the lifeguard tower to go out and make preventative actions and hopefully reduce any sort of minor injuries. The towers are They have tinted windows, and because of the new technology, where the corners meet, there's a very small piece of fiberglass, so the viewing up there is almost unobstructed on any given day. And then finally, just with the weather that we have here in Santa Barbara, they're actually a lot warmer for the lifeguards, and we don't have to provide additional clothing and things like that on a given summer day. The funding for this came from the 2002 Resources Bond. We pursued a bond act, and we purchased 5 lifeguard towers at a cost of $11,356 per tower, with the additional charges for delivery, setup, and taxes and color changes. We spent a total of $61,150, all of which was grant funded. So we were really excited to have these out on the beach this summer, and basically, look to providing that high quality lifeguard service that we have out there each summer. The second program that I would like to highlight is the Santa Barbara Junior Lifeguard Program. We currently have 280 participants in our program, and it continues to grow. This picture here, I tried to count head counts, but I've got somewhere around about 260, so we probably had 20 kids out during the picture day, which isn't uncommon. Just a program overview, it's a discipline training program which includes physical activity, teamwork, competitions, and camaraderie. And I'd really say that the teamwork and camaraderie really come out after the second week. Junior guard programs get a tough rap for being basically a militant-style program, but truthfully, after the first couple of weeks, the kids have met other children from other schools that they don't normally associate with. They meet new friends, and really by the end of the program, parents and participants are asking us, who's going to be back the following year. The program targets youth 9 to 17 years of age. We run a new recruit week from 10 a.m. to noon. That week is taking place right now. We're over 100% occupancy for that. We've assigned additional instructors to handle that need. The program itself is a 7-week program from 10:30 to 2, and as I mentioned before, participation has increased from 208 in 2003 to 280 in 2007. So we've seen a 35% increase in our program over those years. We were fortunate enough to hold the 2006 Junior Lifeguard State Championships at East Beach last year. It is a 2-year bid process, and we had not had the championships on our beach since 1994. Historically, it rotates every 2 years down in the Southern California beach areas, and we are the highest that it's been in the California area. So we brought the event back to East Beach last year, and we have been successful in having it again this summer, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think one of the things that these slides will show is just the diverse activities that junior lifeguards are exposed to on a daily basis, and how many of them really cross over to true lifeguarding functions. Just the top left slide is just an overview of basically Tent City. Last year we had a significant amount of people travel up from all the different agencies. To the right you see a paddle competition. To the lower left you're seeing a run relay, and then the lower right is a rescue relay event where a junior lifeguard will swim out to a victim that's out on a buoy line and actually bring him back and cross the line, and it's in a competition format. Again, on the upper top left are 2 of the Santa Barbara junior lifeguards winning the AA version of the rescue relay. Off to the right there, top right, we have the junior lifeguard flag competition. And then the lower left, we have what looks to appear to be a run relay, or actually a distance run, and then the other event is a run, swim, run, which, again, is what lifeguards do daily. They leave their tower, they run, they make a swim to make a rescue, and then run back to their tower. So this year, like I mentioned earlier, we are lucky to host again the state championships for our second year. It'll be taking place Friday, July 20th at East Beach. We are expecting 40 junior lifeguard agencies from along California to come and participate. So that's 1,500 competitors. And we expect another 1,000 to 1,500 spectators to be on our beach July 20th. Last year, Santa Barbara placed 4th in 2006, and that's our best recollection. They've gone away from team scoring due to some issues in Southern California with some of the bigger programs competing for places, so it's individually scored, but my staff assured me that we finished 4th and no higher. And then we also have 28 state champions in our program. We have 10 national champions. And the National Junior Lifeguard Program is only in California every third year. So we're not competing at that, except for every third year. It's rotated through the East Coast and through the Midwest as well. The final program that I'd like to highlight is our Learn to Swim programs that are also up and running this week. We have a couple of different programs inside of that. We have a fee-based swim lesson program. We serve approximately 600 annual participants, and we deal with children aged anywhere from 6 months to 15 years. We have a Tiny Talk program, which is typically the 6-month to 3-year age group. We have beginning, intermediate, and advanced classes. We run lessons not only at Los Baños, but also at Ortega Park Pool. And then the second program that we have that we've picked up, and it's our third year, is we have a grant-funded Learn to Swim program that we offer for free. And we actually partner with the Santa Barbara Boys and Girls, or sorry, the Santa Barbara and the West Side Boys and Girls Clubs. So we actually partner with them. They bring the kids in, and instead of running a typical 2-week swimming lesson, which our fee-based programs are, we take up to 50 kids per week, and we run them through a 1-week condensed Learn to Swim program. And last year we served, I think it was 125 in this program. The previous year we served 285 kids in the free Learn to Swim program that was grant funded. There was some problems with transport from one of the Boys and Girls Clubs last year, so our numbers dropped. The Learn to Swim program, we also offer we offer up to 50 scholarships that are available this year. We offered 44 scholarships, or we awarded 44 scholarships in 2006, and we will continue to look for funding to continue to provide those scholarships. And the number there, if anyone's interested in reaching out and getting a scholarship, please call our pool office, and we'd be more than willing to assist. The final slide that I'd like to leave for anybody that's viewing this presentation is these are the top 10 safety summer tips provided by the United States Lifeguarding Association, which our Beach Lifeguard Service has been a member of since 1993. And again, I just point out to the top one, swim near a lifeguard. There's been a lot of comments lately on national media regarding riptides, how to prevent getting into a riptide, how to save yourself when you do encounter a riptide. And the best thing you can do is when you go to a beach, find a lifeguard stand, check in, let them know that you're there, and ask them what the beach conditions are for the day. They're there to provide that level of service, that kind of information, and should you find yourself in some difficulty, they're trained to come out and rescue you. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions or comments from the commission?
No, I just would like to comment on the Learn to Swim program, and I think it's so important, and I'm really pleased to hear about the grant funding, because I think there's a lot of kids on the east side and the west side that live blocks from the beach and don't know how to swim, and it just opens a whole area of recreation to them to get over that fear of water and be able to do that. So that's wonderful, and I've seen the new lifeguard towers. They're great. That's exceptional, and I just really thankful because my kids learned to swim in the city program, and it was really a benefit and the best swimming lessons in town. So thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Well, 5 o'clock time certain for our advisory committee.
I think we can get through this next item.
Okay. Ms. Jang Bardick. Ms. Rapp.
Susan Jang Bardick is here just to give you a quick recap of what's in the works for 4th of July.
Commissioner Connor, commissioners, other commissioners. I'm Susan Jang Bardick. I'm the Facilities and Registration Services Coordinator, and I handle the permitting of public events in parks and beaches. This year, 4th of July is a city-sponsored event. What that means is that the things that event organizers would normally do, it's done internally by city staff. So generally, I see my role for city-sponsored events as the facilitator. I develop agendas and schedule planning meetings with city staff such as police, fire, waterfront, public works, streets, transportation. At these planning meetings, I lead the discussion regarding the details of the event. In this particular case, It's food vendors, it's entertainment, it's fireworks, it's waste management, which is the toilets and the portable toilets, the dumpsters and the trash and recycling containers. And at these meetings, we also divide up the various tasks. So this year, Brian Slagle of the Waterfront Department is dealing with Marburg and the toilets and the dumpsters and the trash. Steve McCullough is dealing, of Waterfront, is dealing with Boom Boom, the fireworks company, just to ensure that we have a safe show. Riley Harwood and Scott Naganuma, they're in the police department. They deal with street closures and things like that, and public safety. And Parks and Harbor Maintenance are going to be dealing with the trash cleanup. I'm developing a timeline just to make sure that we do what we need to do when we are supposed to do it, and also a contact list so that we can be in touch with one another even on July 4th. I'm happy to announce that this year the city is partnering with Sparkle. They are going to handle very key elements in the 4th of July festivities. And so I'd like to actually turn things over to Don Kadich. He's the president of Sparkle, and he can talk about the things that he's organizing.
Thank you, Susan. Chairman Connor and commissioners, first of all, I would like to thank Susan and also Nancy in a very special way, in that this word is overused, but it's not in this particular case, and that is synergy. The support that Sparkle has received from the city, the positive assets and what the city does best is brought into this particular event, as well as I think what Sparkle provides. And you put the two together, we complement each other, but we don't duplicate each other. And I think this is a model of how a day of an event can be organized and executed for the public good using both private and public dollars. So I'd like to just thank you for your organization and leadership in that area. Let me tell you quickly what Sparkle brings to the table on July 4th. Sparkle, we produce things. We obtain private money to help augment an event. We have brought in this year the United States Air Force Band of the Golden West. It's a 50-member orchestra that will be performing live on West Beach, free to the general public from 7 to 9 p.m. Of course, the fireworks start at 9 o'clock. We also have the Central Coast's American Idol, AJ. If you're a fan of American Idol, he'll be performing for 15 minutes during the orchestra's intermission. The idea here is to bring patriotism back to the 4th of July. And that is, obviously, it's a holiday that has a very specific message and meaning, and we want to echo that in all that we do. We also are providing publicity for the event through the news press and through the local broadcasters, through Cox Cable, and the 6 Rincon stations, 2 of which are Hispanic. We'll obviously be promoting the city's fireworks at 9, the Freedom Celebration at 7, as well as particular items the city has asked us to promote, as far as no pit digging and those type of items. We also have organized at this point 8 vendors on Cabrillo. Obviously, as those of you who have fought the stream and hordes of people heading down to West Beach, there's a certain amount of people that need to be fed, and we provide those vendors to do that. And also this year at 7:45, we'll have 2 F-16s out of Edwards Air Force Base paying a visit.
Great.
Good work.
Any comments?
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I think that the 4th of July is all about patriotism. I'm wondering whether there's anything that's part of the planned festivities that are not militaristic, that aren't that kind of expression of patriotism, because I'm hearing about an Air Force marching band and fighter jets. And something that's bothered me about our 4th of July parade, which I know is a totally separate thing, is that we've gone from something that is celebrating our independence to sort of straitjacketing ourselves into the only way to do that is to show off military hardware. So is there something that's part of the planned festivities that is a little less militaristic, I guess, is my question.
Sure. Good question. The music that is performing, I guess, it is a Air Force band, but not all the music that they'll be performing, and certainly not the music that AJ will be performing is centered on military issues.
Not surprisingly, I disagree completely with my friend Durock on that, and that I think, you know, we go to D.C. for the 4th of July, or to Boston, or to Chicago. Pretty much every year we'll be in D.C. this year. And on the mall in D.C., it's very much about the military and flyovers and military band and all the rest that's going on. And we're going to be in the Interior building watching it this year. And I got to say that, you know, I think the military is a big part of the 4th of July for me every year. So I commend you on having the military band and the flyovers.
So now you have a unanimous
Yeah.
mandate from the commission, as you can see.
If you come often, you'll see that we seldom agree, but tolerate each other.
Well, yeah, this is where diversity comes into play.
Thank you. We're all looking forward to it in our own way. Thank you.
Is there a parade this year?
As a matter of fact, there is. The Spirit of 76 is planning their usual parade from 1 to 3. We're not involved in that aspect of planning, so those really are the only details I have.
And sometimes isn't there some sort of art show, like up at, I mean, there's a lot of events that happen throughout the city, right, on that day? Is there an art show this year also, or?
Yes, the Arts and Crafts Show. Is it the Arts and Crafts Show, or are we talking about the other one? There used to be one at the Mission. I don't believe it's at the Mission anymore.
See, Duraka, there's lots of non-military.
And I do know that the concert at the courthouse will also take place, the symphony concert at the courthouse.
God, we're all going to be very busy that day with all these activities. Thank you for making sure it's going to be so much fun.
Thank you. It is a little past 5, so I'd like to move to item number 10, which is the Franceschi Park Advisory Committee interviews and appointments. I believe, if I do my math right, all of our applicants are here. So, Ms. Rath?
Commissioner Connor, you have 4 applicants and 1 vacancy, so you may conduct your interviews and then select your candidate.
Okay. I would like to call forward, and I'm sorry if I pronounce this incorrectly, Mark Kyriakos? Oh, thank you. Please come forward.
Before we start, I'd just like to say I was impressed by the quality of the candidates that we had for this position.
Yes, the Franceschi Park Advisory Committee is very popular. They must serve dinner or something with their meal or their meetings because there are a lot of people anxious to get on this committee.
Not all committees travel on their stomach.
Yes, Mark, go right ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, the reason I applied for this job is I live close to Franceschi Park, and
It's on.
I've always loved the place. And when I saw the ad for that you're looking for somebody on a horticultural advisory committee, or on the advisory committee, I thought it would be a great chance to contribute.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Lermo Hall.
What's your take in a nutshell on the house and the refurbishment of the house and the usage of the house in Franceschi Park?
Well, personally, I'd rather see the money spent on the grounds, but that's I think that's already set as policy. I'm aware that the city and the Pearl Chase Society are going to restore the house when the funds become available, and that the city was going to provide matching funds, whatever the Pearl Chase Society raised. Like I said, from my background, you know, if ideally I'd like to see the money spent on the grounds, but
maybe with the house restored, it might provide a catalyst for taking a closer look at the grounds. I understand that the city allocates funds for the parks according to usage. And it would be nice if the house was like used for like adult ed classes or something like that. Of course, not like a huge impact maybe on the, as far as crowds and everything goes, but
That's good.
pretty about it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Any other questions for Mark?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, I'd like to call forward Sheridan Stanton. Hello, welcome.
I just, like him, saw the ad, and my youngest daughter's just leaving to go off to college. I have a little bit of free time. A little bit about my background. I have 30 years experience in the green industry in one way or another. I'm a ISA board certified master arborist. I'm a member of the American Society of Consulting Arborists. I've had been a pesticide license for about the last 15 years. Not that I'm big on that or anything. And I love that park. I don't live by it, but I drive by it all the time, and it could use a little maintenance there.
Any questions?
Yeah, Sheridan, did you mean to indicate where it says, are you familiar with the past or current issues of Franceschi Park? You marked no.
I'm really not.
Did you intend to mark that?
Yeah,
So you'd be on kind of a learning curve.
on a learning curve.
on Franceschi.
My understanding is you're looking for somebody with a horticultural background, and as far as some of the issues with it, I'm not really familiar with any of that.
Okay, any other questions?
Maybe you're answering the question. I was just planning to ask the same question of all
About
of the
the
applicants
house?
about the house.
You know,
But if you
that-
don't feel comfortable,
I have absolutely no background on what's happened up there. I've just gone in there, once a week when I'm driving by and drive around and look at it. And, it has a lot of potential. There's no question. There's some beautiful plants in there. Some maybe that could use a little, little maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to call forward Keith Park.
Hello.
Yes, Keith, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, unlike the other applicants, I don't live anywhere near Franceschi Park, as you probably saw. I'm coming down from Woodside, where I'm employed at the Filoli Estate. I've been there for about 8 years now, almost 8 years. Anybody unfamiliar with it, it's kind of like Lotus Land. It's an old estate that turned public in 1975, and there's 16 acres of highly maintained formal gardens. And I started there after I graduated from school with a bachelor's in horticulture. I was born and raised here, so I'm very familiar with Franceschi, and it was a family member who lives in town who alerted me to the ad. My interest in horticulture, I've been practicing it for 8 years. Professionally, it's like I said, it's a pretty highly maintained place where I work, and the standard is very high. And I'll go out on a limb and say that Franceschi needs a whole lot of work, not just a little. I spent the last hour and a half, well, a little while ago, roaming around, just taking notes. And I guess where I would like to emphasize the horticulture is in the significant plant collections that exist and could exist as somewhat of a botanic garden in a sense. Even though it is a public park, I know time, maintenance funds, that's all limited. But I'm entering a program for a Master's in Historic Preservation soon, this year. And as part of that, I want to emphasize historic estates, and particularly essentially what I call modern ruins. There's others around Santa Barbara that I've been interested in for years, and Franceschi's one of them. The Tea House is another. But so I thought it would be a good opportunity to exercise my interest and skills in plants.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Park? Longstreet?
I had a question about living so far away, how you would maintain an involvement.
I have no problem with coming down. Personally, that's not a problem, but I understand completely that you would probably want somebody who's much more readily available. I can come down on fairly short notice, and as I understand from the application or the advertisement that meetings would be held quarterly, 4 times a year. I mean, me and my wife are down here far more than that anyways, so it's not really an issue for me. I understand if it's an issue, but...
Okay, thank you.
Where is Woodside?
Near Stanford, Palo Alto.
It's in the Bay Area?
Yeah, it's yeah, it's pretty far. Probably more far than...
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like to call forward Betsy Collins. Hello, Betsy.
Sort of daunting for me. I work at the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden, and I found out about this position from Billy Goodnick. I have awareness of Franceschi and its issues from, I work with Carol Bornstein, who was on the long-range planning committee, and I have looked at the document that was prepared then, and I'm also familiar with the request, the grant proposal that went in for the renovation of a specific bed to showcase Franceschi's plants. My interest, my background is primarily in botany. My position at the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden is the Living Collections Manager, and my duties there involve maintaining the plant records primarily. I have been involved with horticulture. Well, I'm interested in horticulture for sure, especially in plants of the Mediterranean regions of the world. But Franceschi was important, and the place is important, in my opinion, for the legacy that Dr. Franceschi brought in terms of horticulture to Santa Barbara. And I think that renovating or sprucing up that garden is important, but I think that we really need to provide that information, and I see that interpretation and signage is much important to moving forward the interest in that park than just about anything else. I know I'm going to get asked about the house, and I don't have an opinion about the house particularly.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
A motion?
I would like to call for a motion, and as you know, we only have...
Well, we might want a little discussion.
Do you want to
I'm sorry,
discuss
I
with
can't
people
hear you.
forward?
A little discussion.
Discussion, indeed.
Because we have, 4 highly qualified candidates here, and a park that needs a lot of help. And we're going to only make, obviously, one appointment, but I would like the other 3 people to consider being involved in it. I think we have a Friends of Franceschi, and we have a lot of need up there. And just because we're going to only appoint one of you, I would surely like the other 3 to love it and help it. So I'm looking at kind of what we need up there. You're the liaison right now, Doraka.
What would you...
Where are the plans at? I know they were doing the demonstration. Oh, sorry, I was the last liaison. I know they were at the demonstration, Brad, and trying to generate interest in the fundraising aspects and the Friends and the development. And there was some plant cataloging going on. I'm looking at Mr. Goodnick, who's shaking his head. I'm trying to figure out what skill set we best need right now.
Also, Doraka, can you tell us about the house?
Yes.
We're going to ignore Mr. Forcell right now. So, I'm leaning towards,
Did you want to hear from DeRocca, or did you just want to ask?
well, he didn't know at that point. I didn't want to put him on a tremendous spot.
I didn't know any more than you just said, no.
Yeah, I felt I was putting him on a spot right then
Yeah,
about it.
I
'cause
know
he
that
just
I'm going
took
to end
that
up on
over.
the spot. It's okay.
So, I'm looking at a skill set of the plant cataloging and the signage being where we're at that program right now. I'm looking at also that we have these Friends Days that need some organization, and those are another big important part. But I'm sort of leaning towards Ms. Collins right now for expertise in the plant cataloging.
Well, remember that the only one we're appointing here is for the horticulturalist, not the neighbor, not the Riviera, not the Pearl Chase, the at-large. So yeah, the skill set is certainly important. I also, I think all the applicants are worthy. I would suggest to Keith that he's a very bright young man, but as much as he says he can drive down from San Francisco for the meetings, I think that would be a burden. And I am also leaning towards Betsy Collins as the person that would best fill this position.
And I would agree. I was leaning towards Betsy Collins as well. And DeRocca?
I mean, now that we're naming names, I didn't realize we were going to jump there that quick. I mean, for me, it's a
comments. Go right ahead.
Yeah, for me, there are four very qualified candidates.
Absolutely.
I agree, as usual, with BB that the point here is to find the right skill set. The reason that I was asking for opinions on the House is not because is not in any prejudicial way and not as a litmus test, because I don't have a hard line on it either, but just that anyone that sets foot into this committee and is going to be working with this on this project and on this park as it continues to develop and unfold, should know that there are some contentious issues around the House and the usage of the House, and that even though a lot of the biggest issues have maybe been settled, that it's still these issues are still alive. And so getting a sense of where people are at in terms of how to integrate the use of the House, any signage, anything that's going on in terms of the overall mission of that park, which is not a place to go play baseball, which is not a place to play soccer, but is a place that is the jewel in the crown of the horticultural and biodiversity, so to speak, of our park system. So I want to make sure that anyone we appoint is going to think very clearly, creatively about how to integrate those things. Because in my mind, the main purpose, so to speak, of this park, as was said, I think, by more than one of the applicants, is preserving a legacy. So in terms of names, I think Ms. Collins sounds wonderful. I think she'd do a great job. I also think that Mr. Kiriako would do a good job. So I've heard one name thrown out several times, and I don't really feel strongly enough about it to block consensus. But I would underline that from the first meeting of the advisory committee that I went to, there's more work to be done than can be done by the advisory committee. There's a lot of work to be done, and there are many levels and many ways to plug into the work of preserving that park and developing its mission. So anyone who has a love for that park should get involved, whether or not they're on the advisory committee. And I hope that wasn't too rambling.
Okay, I would move to appoint Betsy Collins as the horticulturalist appointee for the Franceschi Park Advisory Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
No, one
Thank
abstention.
you.
Oh, you abstained? Okay, with one abstention.
And I would like everybody else to please get involved.
Thank you.
We
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
coming.
interest.
Okay, moving back to item number 9, update on concerts in the park, program 2007. Ms. Rapp.
Chair Connor and Commissioners, it's that time again, so get your blankets ready. Judith Cook is here to give you an overview of the summer concert series.
Chair Connor and Commissioners, good evening. Summer officially started for the Parks and Recreation Department this week with the start of our many youth summer camps and clinics and our summer concert series tomorrow night. I just wanted to say a quick thing about summer youth programs, that I encourage parents that are still looking for fun and exciting programs for their children to participate in, to visit our website at sbparksandrecreation.com. or our recreation office on Laguna Street to find out about all these fun camps, clinics, and programs we have going on this summer, as well as many adult classes and sports leagues that we're offering this summer. Our popular Concerts in the Park program kicks off at Chase Palm Park tomorrow night at 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Our opening night's going to feature Ronnie Benessi and his Spanish guitar. Ronnie and his group performed for us 2 years ago, and they're coming back after a nationwide tour and an Emmy-winning PBS special. So we're looking forward to a really exciting evening of flamenco guitar and flamenco dancing. We're offering 12 concerts this summer, 8 in Chase Palm Park on Thursday evenings, and then our popular program in Alameda Park that we've been offering for 22 years on Sunday afternoons from 3 to 4:30. And our first concert will begin in Alameda Park this Sunday, July 1st. Before I wrap up this evening, I just want to acknowledge the generous sponsors in our community that make this program possible. And just to give you a little information, the concert series is made possible through funds provided by the city, grant funds through local foundations, donations from concert attendees that attend every concert, and in-kind donations from some local businesses. And I'd like to recognize them tonight. The Santa Barbara Independent, K-Light and K-Tide, Hagen Printing that printed our wonderful concert brochure for us this year, XL5 Productions, SBParent.com, and Santa Barbara Family Life Magazine, and then the many, many individuals who have generously donated to help make the concert series possible. So we look forward to seeing everyone out in the parks this summer and just looking for a great time and a wonderful variety of great music in Santa Barbara's beautiful parks.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Everyone enjoys that so much. Thank you for putting that together. As usual, great job.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to arrange a flyover by some jets so that Steve can come and enjoy it?
I'll look into that. We're going to have to separate the boys.
We will. Our next item, number 11, Ealings Park Phase 3 Preliminary Review. Ms. Rapp.
Chair Connor and Commission, you have before you this evening a preview, a preliminary review of the development project proposed by Ealings Park. Billy Goodnick, our landscape architect, is going to introduce the item, and Ealings will do their presentation. I just wanted to lay some groundwork for you. Some of you have been on the commission long enough that you've seen several versions of development plans, so I just wanted, I know that Ealings will give a bit of history, but just for everyone's benefit, Ealings Park, a portion of it is on city land and has been deemed park land, which is why it has a closer relationship with this department. And the development is planned for both on the city portion as well as the portion that currently resides in the county. The park is operated as a community park by the Ealings Park Foundation, and it's important to understand that they operate independent of the city. And just as we struggle with our operating costs, they even more so, as they have to generate all of their revenue to cover all of their park maintenance and park operation costs. Thus, you'll see in their plan that there was a significant input on looking at both what would serve the community best and what could financially sustain the park. And just as a reminder to you, there are 2 city council members and the Parks and Recreation Director that, by agreement with the city, sit on the Ealings board as advisors. This is not the first time that I've seen this project. I think you'll be very pleased. I know that I've mentioned to you in the past that there are some wonderful elements being proposed that really do respond to the community's desire for more activities for youth and families. This is the first of several meetings that you will have on this development proposal. This is definitely the less meaty of those meetings. You are really being asked to provide general comments on what's being included in the project, comments on the appropriateness and value to the community. There's nothing formal. These are just comments that are going forward to ABR and the Planning Commission through the planning process. And certainly in the future we'll have other issues as we get into the meat and potatoes of things. But with that, I'd like to have Billy Goodnick introduce the item, if I haven't stepped on his toes too much.
I crossed a few things out as you went through. Chair Connor and Commissioners, as you see, you have before you Ealings Park Phase 3, and your staff report gives a pretty thorough synopsis of the proposed development, so I won't go into that. Present in the room tonight are Steen Hudson, who's the Executive Director. Did I get that right? Okay, of the Ealings Park Foundation, and Bruce Giffen, who's the immediate past president of the Ealings Board, and he's going to actually be doing the presentation. Also available for questions on a more technical level, Trish Allen with Suzanne Elledge Planning and Permitting Services. Also April Verbanek is here from Dudek Engineering and Environmental, and the city has contracted with them to serve the function that our normal planning staff would serve. Also, Rick Arlen is here from Gervin Associates, landscape architects on the project, and also Alan Zimmer from Architects West for the architectural side of things. There's other staff here from the Ealings Park Foundation as well. So the scope of the project is, as Ms. Rapp has already said, is the remainder of the existing, what we recognize as the developed area of Ealings Park, as well as Ealings South, which is the portion of the park formerly known as the Jesuit property, bordered by Jerry Harwin Drive and Cliff Drive. Just to go into a little bit more detail about the Commission's role, again, as Ms. Rapp said, tonight is comments regarding the scope of the project and the potential value to the community. The additional reviews that this commission will be involved in will be a joint Park and Recreation and Planning Commission hearing for comments during the scoping of the draft EIR. Then there will be a public comment phase, and then following that there will be Park and Recreation Zone findings that you'll have to make after the final EIR process is done. I don't have an exact timeline on that, but it's not going to be next month. The final steps after this commission's involvement, after the findings, the Planning Commission will consider the final EIR. Then there's going to be a request to rezone the remaining property to both properties to Park and Recreation Zone. That's not the current zoning for either of those, and an amendment to the general plan designating the soon-to-be annexed area to regional park. Ealings South also requires development plan approval, zoning designation to Park and Recreation, and amending the general plan to regional park. Sorry, I misspoke on the first one. Planning Commission then makes a recommendation to City Council, and City Council takes the final action regarding annexation, zoning designation, and the general plan amendment. So that's it in a nutshell, and if your heads aren't swimming, I'll pass off to Bruce Giffen to do the presentation. Or to Steen Hudson.
That's great. Thanks, Billy. And it is a privilege to be here. I've had the privilege to live in Santa Barbara for 26 years and now married and raising 3 boys in the community, 11, 13, and 15. And about the same time Ealings opened up, I played soccer on one of the first times that the soccer fields were open, and then my boys have accessed that park and many other facilities in Santa Barbara and are quite aware of the importance and the need that we have in this community. And then I've also, most of my professional career has been in the nonprofit sector, and I've had the privilege now to come on board as of last November to be the executive director for Ealings Park. And I'm thrilled to be a part of an organization that has, I think, a tremendous legacy in serving the community. So it's great to be here. To add to the events that we want to make sure you're aware of,
after Thursday night, or whatever night it is, you're going to go to the concert in the park. Friday night is a personal invitation. Over the Hedge is being showed. It's we have 3 summer movie nights. So I'm just going to pass this right here. I want to make sure that you or your family or friends are available to come to that. It's a great night for the family and kids. But I think as I now just introduce Bruce to come up and share the presentation, one of the things that I've been so aware of in my time here in Santa Barbara and in our community is the importance of things and activities and places that serve youth and families. And I just think that's the heritage and the history of Elings Park. So Bruce, as our past board president and leader of Phase 3, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dean. Chair Connor and Commissioners, thank you so much for having us here today. It's an honor and a privilege. And Nancy, thank you for a wonderful introduction and to lay a little of the groundwork for us here. And let's see if I can get the technology to work here. There we go. So for those of you who've been on the commission long enough, who've seen this project in a few iterations of the way we go, you know the labor of love that this has been for the foundation as we move ahead in our desire to complete what we call Phase 3, the developed part of the park. And it is a unique partnership with the city in that we do lease the ground from the city for the grand sum of $1 a year. Many of you may have had the same experience that I had when I was 5 years old with my first trip into the park, where I was thrilled to ride in the back of my uncle's pickup truck with my cousins to go dump a load of trash at the park. Only it wasn't a park then. It was the city dump. And that's been an ongoing conversion process, and that was, again, started by some community leaders back in 1965. Phase 3 will complete that conversion. Phase 1, that was when the 6 tennis courts that went in on Las Positas Road. That's been a great facility, been used by many throughout the years. Had some parking attached to it, as well as it was given to the city of Santa Barbara. Phase 2 was ongoing developments with Godric Grove, Veterans Memorial Walk, the ball fields. And as many of you know, that's where the park celebrates those and commemorates events, weddings, funerals, those have given their all. Phase 3, the 3 components are recycle, regenerate, and recreate. And it consists of 2 areas, which combine total 39 acres of the park. Altogether, there's 230 acres. We're proposing to finish the lower 23 in the existing park, an additional 16 acres in the southeast corner of the park. It consists of lots of landscaping, improved lighting and accessibility, and then ongoing methane and water monitoring, groundwater monitoring. One of the things it does is that it improves our facilities. It makes some of our users become owners of the park. And the main thing that it does for us through the activities that are planned is it creates stability and strength for the future of the park. As Nancy mentioned, it's a great challenge for us to raise money each year to keep the park open, keep it going. It's one of those Santa Barbara things that we do. Phase 3, recreate. It's been 10 years of community planning. We've had workshops with teens and neighbors and other interested community members, park visitors. And here is an overview of the two pieces of the park. The lower 23 on the left in the northwest section, then the southeast section, which is over on Elings Park South, which consists of the new BMX and as well as a frisbee disc golf course over there. Part of the lower 23 includes a family activity zone. There's an 18-hole putting green, ropes course, picnic area, zip line, climbing wall, and splash zone. This is in response to what Pros Consulting recommended as a way to respond to the community needs as well as raise funds for the park. Pros also was very helpful, as I understand it, with Chase Palm Park and looking at what was going to be used there. And they've created our basis for our business plan. And so we feel these things aren't being met in the community because the ground's too expensive. Who could afford to put any sort of putting greens for kids? Where would you put a ropes course? And yet we have the ground, and it also would be a way to raise funds to answer a need that isn't being met at this point in time. There's also a climbing wall and a splash zone as part of it. We've also addressed the needs for parking and pathways from the existing softball fields to new recreation areas. Part of it, too, includes changing out the softball lighting that's there now so it becomes low glow, eliminate the night glare that is currently going on, enhance landscaping and sandstone gravity walls. Lots of trees, 637 trees are currently on the landscaping plan. Will certainly help add to the lungs of the city. One of the key elements is the Community Activity Center. It's a place for celebrations, gatherings, parties, receptions, programming. This is a rendering that's done from the softball fields looking across the parking area. Off to the far right, you can see the nearest home to it. Has amazing views. Has views out to Henry's Beach, or Arroyo Burro to be politically correct in this day and age. I've been here too long. And out in the other direction up to the Goleta Valley. Field additions. We'll have 2 new multi-purpose fields with synthetic turf. One of the reasons why we want to do that is, unlike most parks where you want to recharge the groundwater, here we don't because of what's below it. And then we'll also be able to use it for greater use by the kids and adults. And then there's a multi-purpose arena field. It says arena, but it's really an arena field where you have arena soccer, where you have a low wall all the way around it so the ball never goes out of bounds. It's a very fast-paced game. And we've talked about the lighting. And additionally, there's a new entrance kiosk and a small parking lot on the lower right. Some of the improvements to our existing areas are a small stage off of the lower soccer field, just below the Veterans Memorial Walk. And there's an off-leash dog area that's fenced for when we have events that are going on, because as you know, we're a leash-free park, and there are times when there may be, that will be the place for the folks with dogs where they'll have to be. Batting cages near the softball fields and improved lighting. And this is a new element that's been that we're introducing here, and that's moving the BMX track over to Elings Park South, as well as creating Frisbee disc golf using the natural terrain that's there. And again, here's the whole 230 acres, and you can see the lower 23, as well as Elings Park South. Our community outreach has been ongoing and extensive with numerous mailings to neighbors and meetings. I wish I could say they've been well attended, but we typically have about 3 to 6 neighbors who show up. So our park user groups, we've presented in front of the Architectural Board of Review and yourselves. So we're really pleased and excited to be here. It's part of our ongoing quest and mission to create active recreational use for our community. It's one of those things that I think the community of Santa Barbara does. It's a nonprofit regional park built by the community for the community. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I guess, and before you go to, and I'm sorry, were you going to have any other presentations at the conclusion of the Elings presentation?
I guess if there's any questions,
right.
We can respond.
Before we go to questions, I just wanted to touch on some of the things that we know you'll be spending more time on in the future. There will be, this is a large project, as you can tell, so there will be environmental concerns that we'll be spending some time talking about, looking at the impact, and as always with any of our projects, how do we mitigate that and the value to the community, and looking at all of that. I would expect that there would be substantial discussion about lighting, parking, traffic, and some of that is covered more through some of the other city review committees, but as always, those are issues that come up when we review projects as well. One particular area that is still unchanged in this version of the plan is that it does still show a pathway from our Las Positas tennis courts parking up into the park, which is supported by the city's transportation department and the TCC. And from the perspective of providing connectivity throughout the city, staff would agree that has some real potential positive benefits, but we will be talking about the concerns that we've always had, which is the impacts to that parking lot for the tennis users. So just understanding that that will be something that we'll be spending some time on. It's probably a good idea, but we need to just talk about how do we mitigate the impact to the tennis users. So with that, if there are questions that you have either for any of the Elings folks or staff, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of the commission?
Yeah. I have a number of questions for the Elings people. I used to live on the west side and used to go up in when it was a dump, and actually it had just been covered over, and go up there and jog many, many years ago. And so I've watched it develop over the years. And when I first came on the commission, I recall that we went up there on a field trip and looked things over when I think this was the same phase. This phase 3 was getting started. Has this now been going for 4 or 5 years that we've been working on this phase 3? Okay, so it is the same thing. Now, my recollection of that, there were many positive things. I remember about the BMX being moved and the additional fields being added and all of that. As I recall, some of the concerns that came up back then, these many years ago, were the size of the building that's going to be the we call it a recreation building. I don't remember what you called it here. Community building.
Community building. Yes.
Yeah, the community building. That it was on 2 levels. It was very big and was going to be an enormous building. Am I kind of remembering this correctly from back then? And have there been many changes in these intervening 4 or 5 years?
Alan, do you want to respond to that? Yeah.
The building has changed some. It was never 2 levels, though.
It wasn't, okay.
No, it was always 1 story, and it's been placed in pretty much the same location. We have increased the size of the dining banquet area, and we have changed the orientation slightly, but it still is sitting on a site in a location where it will be very difficult to be seen from Las Positas because of the slope of the hill. The building is about 20 feet below the surface of the ground, will be placed below the existing surface of the ground, so it's being set back away from the edge of the hillside. So we have some sections that are in our package that show the relationship of the building from the roadway. So it is pretty well hidden behind the hill. In addition, with, of course, it will be very heavily planted.
Okay, and bear with me, my memory, because it has been a number of years, but I don't recall, although I think it would be a big benefit, the putting green or the batting cages or some of these other things. Have these things been added in the last 3 or 4 years?
I think the initial project that was presented, which you reviewed at that point in time, and we were poised to write the check for the EIR when Richard Johns, Nancy's predecessor, came to us and said, the board really needs to go and have a business plan done to see what you're proposing really makes sense financially. And so what was before was mostly just fields in terms of play fields. And so when the pros consulting, who Richard recommended that we hire, came back, they looked at these activities and said, if you look at the way Generation X and Generation Y plays with their kids, it's different than the way the boomers play with their kids. They're more interactive. They like to do things together. Here are the things. They studied our community. They surveyed it. They looked at the items that were missing. And then they came back to and said, these are the things that you don't have in your community. You would actually find a place to have them here in your facility, as well as it would generate funds for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's very wise. I have a lot of other comments, but I'm not going to go through them all tonight. I just will say one thing. I was up at the baseball fields, the softball fields earlier this year, and having played on them in the past, I will say they are in better shape now than they were some number of years ago.
Well, thank you. That was a major investment on the part of the foundation to improve those fields.
You don't sprain your ankle in the outfield every time you start running after a fly ball.
Yeah, we had actually 6 feet of settlement there, and that again is due to the trash that's underneath it. And so we brought that in and filled in those low spots and redid the infields.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Longstreet?
My question's on traffic safety. We're going to have an intensity of use, and we keep going back and forth on the stoplight there. What's going to happen with traffic safety?
I think we were hoping that Veronica Springs would be paying for a stoplight for us. That's what we were hoping for.
Yeah, I know, we were too.
Yeah. So I think the stoplight's pretty crucial. I think the city's long-term plan for making the Las Positas Valley a slower road, a more pastoral road, is crucial to the success of that. A few years back, one of our board members was nearly killed there pulling out of the park. Luckily, she was in a car that had side airbags that saved her life. So it's a concern for all of us.
It is. It's a big concern. We're just doing questions now, huh? Or do we want to do our comments? I think otherwise mine are going to be to the comment phase.
Commissioner Larimer Hall?
Yeah, I have something that might be a comment later, but could start as a question. Why not a skate park?
Why not
Has
a skate
that been, I would assume that must have come up in some part of the brainstorming.
I think part of it was just looking at the management of a skate park, and then also
are there problems with managing skate parks?
Well, so we've been told.
Yeah.
So
you've got that great hill.
I got to squash that rumor. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was management concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a question about the steps that are leading from the existing parking lot at the tennis courts.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be so that would be extra parking for people to access the park, or?
Well, I think the park really has no position on the steps and path from tennis courts to the other facilities within the park. But the transportation department and Parks and Rec had such a dialogue about it in their responses to us that we said, okay, well, we'll leave it in, but transportation and Parks and Rec will have to work this out because we have no position on it. If both parties agreed to take it out, we'll take it out. Both parties agreed to put it in, we'll put it in.
Is there an existing, refresh my memory, MTD bus stop?
I believe there is. Yeah, there is. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Is it near those steps, perhaps? Did I? Or? Yeah, I can't see it. My glasses. Oh, so it's on down. Yeah, it's past the entrance towards the beach, it looks like.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Answered my own question. Okay. And I remember years ago when we walked the site, there was some question about one of the faults the 2 faults that ran on the property. One of them was under the building. Is that no? Is that no
not
longer
under the building?
Okay.
Yep.
Neither are under the building.
No, there's only
Okay.
one, but it's not under the building.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we can move.
Chair
Ms. Rapp,
Connor, I
would you like
just
to
wanted
finish
to
up?
add one comment that may be helpful for those of you that saw the previous rendition, and I'm wondering if this is where Commissioner Forcell was trying to go. At one time, the building was intended to be more of a community center and have office space that would be rented for nonprofits, and it was larger, it was a different use, and perhaps designed differently, and I don't know, maybe Mr. Zimmer could talk to that. But I think that might be where part of the discussion that you're recalling, because I know that was a lot of discussion about, whether that was viable and how would it be used and the size. So I just wanted to say that, to my understanding, what is proposed now is different from what was proposed with the building when you originally saw this plan. I am correct in that, am I not? Okay. So it is different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move to public comment at this time. We have several speakers. Ms. Longstreet will call them forward.
Michael Fowler?
Please hold your comments to 2 minutes.
And Michael will be followed by Carolyn Brown.
Thank you. My name is Michael Favre, and I'm the president of the Lincoln Park Foundation, as well as a member of the local law firm of Bynack Law. I want to start by complimenting the Parks and Recreation Commission, what I feel has been a proactive and an ambitious agenda the past few years. My wife is a teacher at El Puente Community School, so I'm well aware of the need for youth programs and facilities, such as the new Youth Recreation Center that was opened downtown. I've complimented Nancy for her leadership in that, and would like to thank and compliment you guys as well. Elings Park shares many of the same goals as Parks and Rec with regards to the creation of youth facilities and programming. We understand that this proposed development is an ambitious one, but feel that it's consistent with the tremendous nonprofit community that's become a hallmark of Santa Barbara. In our own niche, the Phase 3 project is intended to continue our environmental legacy, which is the transformation of an old city dump into a beautiful park that we can all be proud of. The different elements of the project came about really from countless meetings with neighbors, community members, residents both far and near, students, especially a number of focused youth groups and charrettes that we had where we asked them, what do you guys want in the park? Bruce alluded to earlier the business plan and how we came about with some of the different elements of the project. In reality, what it was the youth who told us, these are the things we're looking for, these are the facilities we'd like to have, and then going back and taking a long, hard look at which of those facilities and programs would allow us to continue as a foundation. As Nancy indicated, we don't receive any public funds of any kind, or no tax dollars, I should say, and so we are reliant significantly upon our ability to generate our own revenue.
10 more seconds.
Recycle, regenerate, and recreate is not just a catchphrase, it's really a philosophy for the Phase 3 project and our attempts going forward. And I really do thank you guys for taking the opportunity to look at the project. Thank you for listening to me today, and look forward to your comments and support.
Thank you. And we did get a chance to look at your letter. I think everyone did. Thank you for submitting that.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Carolyn Brown will be followed by Dale Bowers.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara, otherwise known as the Downtown Club. And I'm here to support this project for a variety of reasons. One in particular is probably about 4 or 5 times this year I've had different groups come to us. We have a field in the back of our facility that we use for football and soccer, and we've had several groups, adult and youth, that have come to us to see if they could use our fields, because there's just not enough fields in the community, and we've had to turn them away. And I always tell them, go talk to Parks and Rec because I'm not sure where all the fields are. But this is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed in this community, are more fields for use for both adults and youth. And the other thing is, of course, we've been dealing with a lot of the fallout from, the recent problems on State Street with the murders, the stabbings, all the things. I'm working with 20 other youth organizations to partner to help address these issues. What we need are more things like this. We need more places for the kids to go. I know for our club, if they had a climbing wall and some of these other things, we would actually create some programs around those. We would take our kids to the climbing wall. And the climbing wall is great for self-esteem, especially for our teenagers who need something to do. And so I just think with all the variety of programs that they're offering and having a facility where kids can go, that this just helps to address the need in this community for kids. We have all these pockets around Santa Barbara, east side, west side, different places. We can't serve all the kids, so we need a variety of different programs to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker is Dale Bowers.
Evening. My name is Dale Bowers, President and Track Director of Santa Barbara BMX for about the past 15 years. We've been located in Elings Park for the last 10 of those years, and I'm just overwhelmed to actually have our program on a piece of paper for permanent status. We've been operating with a generator, reclaimed water, porta potties, and it's been really tough. Our program has never reached its full potential, so I'm really excited. for this to happen. I think for about the past 8 years, I've been told 2 years, 2 years, you're going here, you're going there. So I'm just here to support Elings Park in this. Our program is very successful. Our athletes are very successful. We have one young man that's on the U.S. team right now. The Olympic team has not been picked, but he's definitely a favorite. I'm really excited for this young man. We finished third in the world last year, second in the nation. We have 4 riders going to Canada this year that have a legitimate chance of winning their prospective classes. We need this program in our community, and I don't want to let the kids down. Thanks.
Thanks, Dale. Any other speakers besides three? Okay. In conclusion, anything, Ms. Raff?
Comments?
Comments from commissioners?
No, we need, I have some comments. First off, and I almost, like Dale said, how he feels about having it on paper. I was so pleased to see on paper access from the west side. It's so important. And it's pedestrian access, and I do not, in my heart, believe there will ever be a parking problem on those streets. And I'm so glad to see it on paper, because we've fought long and hard for that, and it's been a big deal. So I really support that. Of course, the more field space is really important. Also, the different types of recreation activities that we as a city cannot supply. The more commercial activities, we hear over and over again how the city's lost, we don't have a miniature golf, we don't have this, we don't have that anymore. And I think this would go a long ways towards supplying that. So you are a different type of park, and we need both types in the community. I think we have a road ahead of us to move this forward, and there'll be compromise, I'm sure. But I think it looks to be an interesting plan. I'm sure it'll evolve, as we've seen over my 12 years on the commission. And I wish you luck in moving forward with it. But I am supportive of all the recreational activities in it, the rock climbing, the disc golf, BMX, all of that. So thank you.
Other commissioner comments?
Go ahead,
Commissioner Larimer Hall?
I'll try to be brief. I love this park. I'm not so young that I was playing soccer there while they were taking tours of it and talking about it, but I did participate in youth sports there. I think one of the reasons that you don't have a lot of sort of angry neighbors coming in to participate in the process or complain is because it is such an amazing example of a very well spatially integrated park. It's nestled. It's high traffic. A lot of people do things, but it's low impact in many ways. I agree with everything that Commissioner Longstreet just said, that there's a lot of potential for programming that really isn't appropriate at other places. Here, it's very good for me to hear from the sister from the Boys and Girls Club about possible more possibilities for programming there. What I would like, and this is as much a request, I guess, to staff as to the Elings folks, is I would like to see a list of the organizations and leagues that already program there, as well as any kind of internal discussion that's happened about about expanding that list. I think that we need to be sure as we move ahead on planning and programming in that park that we see it as a park that can really service large swaths of our community and a very geographically diverse subset of our community. I took the bus to that park to play soccer, and I lived on the lower west side. That should remain a possibility. I'd like to see, in terms of the physical planning of the park, that bus access is thought of not as an afterthought of like there's a bus stop on a busy 3-lane highway that you can risk your life to walk from to go and play soccer, but maybe an on-site bus stop, and that would mean, of course, reaching out to MTD. So what leagues and organizations and so forth are already programming there? Who are people thinking about reaching out to increase programming? I would like as much information I can about how green the park is now and how green the plans are in terms of IPM, et cetera. Someone, somewhere, some part, either the city or one of our partners like Elings is going to have to start biting the bullet on a skate park. So I would like to be the ornery one to suggest that go back into the hopper. For what it's worth, you can obviously take it or leave it. I'm just a commissioner. And the other bit of information that I would love to see is some of the raw data and results of the outreach to youth that you've done in terms of coming up with programming ideas. I'm, again, I'm not so young that I feel like I can say this is what the kids are into nowadays, and I don't want to get into any kind of micromanaging with that, but I do want to make sure that when we make decisions about a lot of these things are about building programming into the landscape of the park. And so I want to make sure that as that happens, that we're really digging deep into realizing what young people in the community are doing and not just the squeaky wheels. So those are the things that I want to look at in terms of moving forward, in terms of making input. But this is wonderful. It looks like it's going to fulfill a lot of needs.
Thank you. Commissioner Forcell.
Well, my initial take is very positive. I like a lot of the elements involved, and I like the fact that the whole area is so big that by putting these things in, we don't overwhelm it with improvements. There's still a lot of open space left, which kind of leads me to ask, is there a plan for Phase 4? Or are we finished at Phase 3 for the foreseeable future?
Would you like a response?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, Elings is a generational park, and what's been done has been done over 3 generations at this point. As Michael Favre alluded to, there's a legacy here, and we believe that our children and our grandchildren will someday determine what the community needs, recreational needs are, and as Santa Barbara continues to infill and more people arrive, that'll be their decision as to what Phase 4 and Phase 5 are.
Okay, good. The last thing I'm going to say is that at one time when Harriet Miller was mayor of Santa Barbara, she had a committee in which I was a member on called I think we call it the Open Space Studies Group. And we spent a lot of time looking for places in Santa Barbara where we could add additional soccer and baseball fields. And it was an extremely frustrating time because there just really weren't. So the fact that you're adding additional fields in this place, really resonates with me and is a top priority because there really aren't other places in Santa Barbara where you can add additional fields because, we looked and looked. And so I really appreciate that part of the whole Phase 3.
I'd like to say that I have really enjoyed looking over the plans and to see how far it's gotten, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm especially excited about Taraka's comments about a possible skateboard park in the future, and maybe a pool complex. But also, I was curious and wanted to have a little more information about your doing the enclosed dog area in the future on down the pike. And I want to wish you the best of luck, and thank you for your presentation. And unless staff has anything more to say, or anything from Elings, thank you very much.
Oh, we'll be seeing you.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Move to adjourn?
Yes, I would like a motion for adjournment. So done?
You just got it, yeah.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Let's eat. Oh, right. Carla forgot to order dinner.
Carla warned us.